With this presentation, we're going to focus on another type of environmental contaminant, pesticides, and other organic chemicals. These have different effects than metals, and they're often found in different types of environmental media. For this first set of slides, we'll just be providing broad definitions. In the second set of slides focused on Chapter 7, pesticides and other organic chemicals, we're talking about more specific types of chemicals and exposures and health effects. The learning objectives for this unit are to be able to describe common substances that are included in the organophosphate group, name commonly used insecticides and herbicides, discuss the health effects of exposure to pesticides, as well as exposure to cleaning products. Hazardous chemicals are essential to the functioning of our society. More than 15,000 chemicals are made and used in high volumes in the United States for everything from clothing to phones to cars to furnishing to building materials. However, these chemicals have been found to be associated with human health hazards such as cancer and adverse birth outcomes. A very famous environmental scientist named Rachel Carson wrote a book in 1962 called Silent Spring, and she's credited with sharing with the public the hazards of chemicals that were being put into the environment. The book itself was about how, because of our use of a pesticide, that pesticide had accumulated in the environment and made it hard for birds' eggs to stay hard. The shells would crack and the birds wouldn't survive. And so all of the springs, all of the brooks, all of the streams were silent. There weren't any birds chirping because so much of this chemical had gotten into the environment. These next set of slides is going to focus on specific definitions of different types of chemicals. If you've ever had a chemistry course, especially an organic chemistry course, this will feel familiar to you. So, aromatic compounds are organic molecules that contain a benzene ring. And two examples are benzene and toluene. These are chemicals that have a variety of uses. Benzene may be found in fuel as well as other chemical compounds. A hydrocarbon is a broader range, includes things like benzene. It has an organic compound that contains carbon and hydrogen, often occurring in petroleum, natural gas, coal, other things that we use for combustion and for fuel. More broad is an organic chemical, naturally or synthetic substance that contains carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. Sugar is an example of an organic chemical. And when we say organic, now we're not referring to organic food, which is almost the opposite, where we're producing it without using any pesticides or insecticides. A broader group still is persistent organic pollutants. These are chemicals that adversely affect human health and the environment because they can be transported and they persist. They can affect people, they can affect wildlife, and they can transport around because they don't degrade rapidly in the environment. And a good example is the pesticide DDT. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons are a group of more than 100 different chemicals that are formed when fuels like coal or gas or other substances are burned. They are pollutants, and they're often produced when we combust things. Volatile organic compounds are compounds that readily evaporate into the air. They include substances like I've mentioned before. Aromatic compounds are often volatile organic compounds. Benzene, toluene, methylene chloride, methylene chloroform. But also important for volatile organic compounds is other substances. If you have a scent of a chemical in a regular application like nail polish or removing nail polish, that chemical produces an odor because it's volatilizing into the air. And what's important about it being volatile means that you can then be exposed to it through inhalation exposure more readily than if it wasn't volatile. If you've ever pumped gas and you can smell the gasoline while you're pumping it, it's because it's volatile organic compounds. Pesticide is any substance intended for preventing, destroying, repelling, or mitigating pests. And it's a really broad definition because we're not talking about one type of pest. We're talking about insects, rodents, weeds, and a host of other unwanted organisms. Cockroaches, ants, etc. Those are different insects. Insecticide is a specific pesticide used to prevent or kill insects. And why it's important to be able to distinguish is because certain chemicals work better to kill insects than they do to kill rodents. Those are insecticides. Herbicide is a chemical designed to control plants, destroy plants, weeds, or grasses. A fungicide is a pesticide that's used to control or deter or destroy fungus from growing. A nematicide is a chemical agent that's used to destroy nematodes. Nematodes are roundworms. There are lots of different types of nematodes, but it would be one example of a broad group of organisms you might try and control. Rodenticide, agents or tools used to prevent rodents or rats, prevent them from damaging food crops, etc.